Your Grind, brought to you by the Cannabis Lab. I am your host, Todd Rosales, and we are having a great time here at the Benzinga Cannabis Capital Conference in Miami Beach, the lovely, lovely Fontainebleau Hotel. Please welcome my guest, CJ Carter from Minorities for Medical Marijuana. CJ, thanks for joining us today, man.
I appreciate you offering this to me. Thank you so much.
Your group has been a long-standing partner in C-Lab. We've had Roz on the show, and it's great to see you guys here.
Absolutely. I appreciate that. Thank you so much.
Absolutely. How's the show going for you so far?
Man, you talk about being very fruitful. This has been an extremely great experience for myself.
Yeah.
Coming from a market that just legalized, being able to build some long-lasting relationships with some individuals, with giving me some key insights that I can take back to the bluegrass state.
Very cool,
which
man.
I refer to as the Fertile Crescent of cannabis, which is Kentucky.
Why is it the Fertile Crescent of cannabis?
We are the best place in the world to cultivate and harvest cannabis, and that's both hemp and marijuana. We have limestone beneath our soil, which enriches every crop with magnesium and calcium. This is why bourbon is so big. 90% of the world's bourbon comes from Kentucky. This is why tobacco was so big.
90% of my bourbon comes from
Kentucky. Exactly. So we have the limestone, and then on top of that, we have a fresh water source from Mammoth Cave. Then after that, we have the location. You can get anywhere in the United States from Louisville, Kentucky.
That's true.
Whether it's coast to coast, northeast, south, wherever it is. And we also, that's why UPS is actually headquartered in Louisville. So we have a unique opportunity that's been presented itself for us to really become the head of the class when it comes to cannabis in Kentucky.
What are the regulations in Kentucky now?
So it's a medical program.
Okay.
Unfortunately, we're a Republican state. Out of the 138 legislators, 107 of them are Republicans. So they pound their chests as having the most restrictive.
We're good with booze and cigars and cigarettes, but weed is just way too far.
Yeah, they still refer to it as the devil's lettuce.
It might be, but it's delicious lettuce.
It definitely is. Very delicious, very delicious. But the actual legislation is very restrictive in a few aspects, being that there's only 5 qualifying conditions. There's no flower, there's no home grow. But there is room for improvement.
Sorry, dude. Hold on one second. All right. So you were the lucky victim of the camera going off today.
Hey, that's perfectly fine.
As we were talking about, you're saying there's no flower, there's no homegrown in Kentucky. Finish the regulation.
Yeah, 5 qualifying conditions is all that we have.
Okay.
But on top of that, one of the pros about the legislations is the University of Kentucky just established a cannabis research program. Cool. So in the legislation, based off of the research that the University of Kentucky comes up with, they're going to be able to improve the legislation in terms of the qualifying conditions. And then on top of that, one of the great aspects of our legislation is the employee protections.
Okay.
Where drug testing will no longer be the case, insurance coverage, as well as worker compensation. So we have a lot of employee protections.
So see, to me, that seems like almost a step further than taking it to the legal level, right?
Yeah,
but
absolutely.
To just make it a more expanded medical market, but I guess it is what it is. The employer protection is great because that is something I will tell you as a cannabis user. If you're ever between jobs, like shit, like I can't use the medicine that helps me be the person I am, who helps me perform my job, because my next job is probably going to test me for it.
Right. So. And that fear factor is what, prevents people from coming out and saying that they have a relationship with Mary Jane. So now that there's no pressures from drug testing, maybe we can get a little bit more support and galvanize more people to enter the legal space.
Very cool, man. So why are you joining this industry? Don't you realize you can make more money in anything else, probably?
Well, my story is my relationship started with Mary Jane in the 8th grade, my 8th grade graduation party. Funny story is my friend had gotten some marijuana. I'm not sure where she got it from, but graduation party, we didn't know where we were going to roll it up in. So we're running around her house trying to find something, and she ends up in the bathroom, reaches in the trash can and pulls out a tampon wrapper. So my first joint that I've ever smoked was rolled in a tampon wrapper.
I love the first time story.
Yeah. So fast forward to the summer of 2018, I actually had the first seizure of my life after I quit smoking cold turkey. My ex-wife hated that I smoked. She would always say, "You have a better relationship with Mary Jane than you do with me." So in means of trying to,
I'm sorry.
Yeah, trying to compromise and make my marriage work, I quit cold turkey. And then after that, I had my first seizure of my life. A week after that, I had another. A few weeks after that, I had another. After the 5th seizure, I was diagnosed with temporal lobe epilepsy. So that kind of catapulted me to be an advocate in the space.
So you didn't realize you were treating yourself.
I did not.
So you're treating yourself, and you never really experienced symptoms until you stopped your treatment.
Until I stopped smoking.
That's crazy to me, man.
So, I explained that to the doctor because I have a cavernoma behind my left eye was like a cave on the MRI. And based off of the size of it, that's what the doctor said. My neurologist said, it seems like this has been here for quite some time. And that's when I came to that conclusion. Well, I've been medicating myself my whole life and didn't even realize it. So that is a part of the why that I'm in the cannabis space. And on top of that, being that I have a pre-existing condition, I can no longer get life insurance. And I have 2 sons, 8 and 3. So that is my real why, to be able to provide something to my boys that's going to be greater than life insurance.
Absolutely.
And, that's the great thing about the cannabis space is this is a brand new industry in its infancy, and it allows anybody who's passionate and consistent with an idea that they have, you can build an empire if you want to.
You're definitely in the right spot right now. So as I understand it, you're a commercial real estate agent.
Yes, sir.
And let's be honest, outside of a license, the first thing people are going to need when they want to start the industry in Kentucky is going to be spaces in which to operate.
Absolutely. And that's where I've positioned myself in this space, to be the go-to cannabis real estate agent in the state of Kentucky. I'm with Coldwell Banker McMahon. We're an international real estate firm. So in Kentucky, I'm looking to start that off as my niche to help answer that most important question of getting properly zoned real estate. Because, on that question, the question on the application, you have to have the address and then the global coordinates for the actual location. So answering that first question in the application process is a way of me consulting and introducing people to the legal supply chain and helping them establish, that empire that they have in their mind's eye.
Are there still licenses being given out in Kentucky?
As of yet, no licenses. We just legalized 3 weeks ago.
Oh, congratulations.
Legislation was passed.
Very cool.
So applications and all the framework for the legislation is coming July 1st.
I used to be so much more on top of it, but we've had so many markets open up that I keep forgetting. So funny enough, I was recently in Kentucky. I drove cross country from Montana all the way to South Florida.
Oh, wow.
Went through Kentucky. We ended up staying in St. Louis overnight. And all of a sudden I landed. I'm like, I saw a couple of billboards along the highway for dispensaries. I'm like, oh shit, I forgot.
Missouri,
and I looked, and it was they had just legally. I think the first sale was in like February. I'm like, oh sweet, and we went into the dispensary and everything else. But yeah, man, that's really cool. I love seeing the story. I love seeing the passion for the industry. You're in a great spot for it. I wish you luck. I hope in the future. I'd love to see someone experiment of aging cannabis in bourbon barrels or something along those lines.
The craft market is what's going to be that's going to set Kentucky apart due to that limestone in our soil.
Okay.
So the outdoor grow is really going to be huge in Kentucky. So what that's going to offer us is we're going to have one harvest a year, but we're going to have a premium product with a limited supply. So that's going to place us above everyone else.
It'll be interesting because for some reason indoor continues to dominate. The thing is, the growing conditions outdoor are great, and I've had some phenomenal outdoor weed, don't get me wrong, but I continue to see indoor command a higher price. So it'll be interesting to see the future of what this brings us.
Absolutely.
I mean, indoor is great for you. It's easier to sell buildings than a bunch of land, I'd imagine.
Vacant land is going to go a long way too.
That's true. How much of that is left in Kentucky?
It's a whole lot. See, the thing about Kentucky is we have 4.5 million people, which puts us at the same size as Oregon. So in terms of the populace and how it's spread, a majority of it is in Louisville, Lexington, Bowling Green, and Paducah. So it's kind of spread out a little bit. So that's another thing about the Kentucky real estate market is in terms of security, we have a lot of rural properties. So in terms of being outside of a large metropolis, we have the rural properties that aren't too far. And, the transportation costs are going to be very limited due to that drive, whether you are in the supply chain.
CJ, if people want to work with you, where can they find you?
You can find me on my social media channels. I'm Commercial Realty on IG, Commercial Realty Group on Facebook. I'm CJ Carter on LinkedIn, and you can visit my website, commercialrealty.com, and that's spelled CANNA. MERCIAL realty.com.
CJ, thanks for joining us.
Appreciate you. Thank you, sir.
Absolutely.